and friends. This is a preliminary report. We got back about a week ago, and the situation in Honduras is still in flux. Things have not been decided. But what I wanted to do was just let you know things we did, how we did it. We were in Honduras from November 22nd to November 26th, and this actually was the third International Action Center delegation to Honduras. So I guess we can applaud that, because I have to say the Honduran people were very appreciative of our solidarity. If we did nothing else, being there was a very, very important act. We were greeted with embraces and hospitality, not only by political activists, but just people we met on the street, at the voting venues we visited. So it was very important that we carried out this task. We went down there sort of under the umbrella of the Honduras Solidarity Network, which is a network of, looking at their website, maybe 30 organizations or members of it. And the organization we were closest with, which is a wonderful organization with wonderful people, is out of Chicago, La Voz de los de Abajo. And they actually did all the arrangements on the ground, where we stayed, getting around, where we were going to visit, taking into account all the time our security. And I should mention the members of the delegation. We all identified ourselves as members of the International Action Center, plus we tacked on any other organizations we were members of. So I identified as a member of Veterans for Peace, Comrade Martha Gravatt from Ferndale, Michigan, identified as a UAW activist, Comrade Leilani, identified as editor of Workers' World newspaper, co-editor, and LGBTQ activist, Sue Kelly from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, a retired teacher, Peter Gilbert from Durham, North Carolina, a civil rights activist, civil rights lawyer, okay. And we had two friends wonderful comrades, I would call them, who actually were around the International Action Center in its early days, back on West 14th Street. Agueda Arias, who's Dominicana and is vice president of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 888 in northern New Jersey, 7,000 members, and they're mostly warehouse workers. Northern New Jersey, as she was explaining, has all the food warehouses that supply the food to the metropolitan area. And her spouse also knew the International Action Center, knew some of our comrades, Milton Vera Sr. and Tom Soto, Juan Villar, who's a New York City high school principal. He's principal of a high school in Washington Heights. So they were wonderful, they were great, and of course their fluency in Spanish added to enhance our work. Pulling the delegation together took about 2 months. There was a lot of paperwork involved, applications, and just buying the tickets and trying to get everybody on the same page. When folks are kind of spread out, Michigan, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York. But we did it, and we had to limit ourselves to 7 being the maximum number that would fit in the vans that are used in Honduras when you add on a driver and any other Honduran compañeras or compañeros traveling with us. So it was Thursday, November 22nd. We all met in LaGuardia Airport at 4 a.m. So that's somewhat of a logistical nightmare, getting people from New Jersey and Queens and everybody getting there. But we did 2 flights down. And the interesting thing on our connecting flight, which was from Atlanta to Tegucigalpa, that was the one flight we weren't able to get seats in advance, and we were told at the airport, at the airport, at the airport. Very unusual, but we found out why, because on that flight with 30 or more cadets from the Honduran Military Academy, and they had just finished a 35-day paratrooper course at the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation, also known as School of the Americas, right. And this was the day before the large demonstrations were to take place, so I'm wondering if they cut the course short to get them out of there, because the course was at Fort Benning, Georgia, to get them out of there before they would be seeing all the demonstrators there. But we got to Tegucigalpa, and we stayed at a modest hotel that was full of other delegations, all solidarity activists, and one delegation was LGBTQ solidarity activists who were particularly focused on the community in Honduras, as well as the whole situation there. There was a group from Canada, and we had some orientation. We had some meetings with some leaders of the struggle in Honduras, and we got our assignment. We found out we were assigned to go to Western Honduras, which was quite a rural area, about, 70, 80 miles outside of the capital, literally another world. And I think the reason that we were given that assignment is because folks know the International Action Center, they know we're serious, they know we're disciplined, and I don't want to make comparisons to being in Tegucigalpa at this time, but to be asked to go where we were asked was, I thought a recognition of not only being there before, but how we conduct ourselves. Just before we left, we attended press conferences and had meetings with 2 leaders that we should really try to pay attention to. 2 women, Bertha Oliva, who's the founder of COFADE, which is the Committee of Relatives of the Disappeared in Honduras. Basically, you're brutalized, someone from your family disappears, someone from your family gets shot by the army or the police. That's the organization you go to get the ball rolling for justice or just to make people aware of the situation. She walks around with a death threat against her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 24/7. She has been to the U.S., and as a matter of fact, she actually has spoken to members of Congress on some Latin American type committees. But yet, in Honduras, she's got to be worried, all the time. As well as another sister we met, Berta Cáceres, the founder of COPINH, C-O-P-I-N-H, the Civic Council of Popular and Indigenous Organizations of Honduras. This organization focuses on an area of Honduras near the border with El Salvador, which is the home of the Lenca Nation. And there are issues of land takeovers and the building of a dam and causing the flooding of communal lands and things like that, which puts this organization in constant confrontation with the military, with the national police, and with private security guards that are employed by the landowners in the area, usually one of the seven families that kind of run things in Honduras now. And Berta was recently jailed. There was an international campaign to have her released. But she's somebody also, death threats constantly she faces, but she goes on with the important revolutionary work that she carries out. Our delegation, as I said, traveled around in a van. Our driver for most of the time was a compañero from Chicago, from La Voz, a Hondureño, Trinidad, who had to leave the country a number of years ago because of death threats. And, wow, he put on the mileage, took us around, knew how to be cool when there were like army roadblocks and stuff, and got us to our destination, explained things to us, answered all our questions. You can imagine being the only Hondureño in a van with 7 North Americans, all have a lot of questions. He has to answer questions from cuisine to politics to road building, but he was great, and I really hope at some point he could come here and perhaps give a presentation. So our assignment, known as Western Honduras. Honduras is divided into 18 districts. And actually the 19th district, which is the diaspora, I understand, we called in, had an event here the day of the election. But the two departments, we spent time in were Camayagua and La Paz. And the towns we were in were Camayagua, Ciguatepeque, Jesus de Otoro, Taulabe, and one other community we actually overnighted, I don't have the name of, a very rural area of campesinos. We slept in a room kind of about this size, bunk beds, and the clouds came in at night. It was about 5,000 feet up. But as we traveled around the country, I mentioned it was just so important for people to see us. And I'm going to just get something quick out of my bag. Have that option. We could have been election observers with actual government training and then go inside and whatever. We chose to be human rights observers. And I mentioned La Voz was very well organized. We had a hat, a baseball cap. It said International Observer. We had a vest on the back, sort of like a bullseye. It said International Election Observer. Big letters, in Spanish, of course. And then we wore, I'm going to pass this around, we wore these bilingual name tags that they prepared for us. So you can take a look. So, this, and we would be traveling around sometimes. We always had our name tags over. And even at military roadblocks, they would see that, oh, okay, international observers. We weren't like the OAS observers who stayed at 5-star hotels or the EU observers, similarly travel. But we did have a lot of respect, and when sometimes we put on all three things, the hat, the vest, and the name tag. And it was really an act of solidarity that in these relatively provincial, rural areas, folks would see international observers who were very interested in the election, interested in their lives, and it was so appreciated. But In addition to, of course, observing the election, I'll mention that briefly. Oh, okay. We met with, in one instance, there was about over a year ago, there was a fire in a prison, and 360 prisoners died. Not one prison employee died. So put that together. We met with their families who were demanding justice. We were on a TV show. The host was a candidate for mayor with the Libre Party. We met with campesinos. We hiked up into whatever and went into an encampment where campesinos had taken over vacant land and had been in confrontations with the police, the national police, local thugs, the army for over a period of 2 or 3 years. We met with Libre Party activists and revolutionaries. We met with communists. We met with people whose history in the struggle goes back to going to Nicaragua and fighting with the Sandinistas against the Contras. We also met with a comrade who was extremely ill. He had been jailed right after the coup in 2009 and was tear-gassed in his cell. He was a leader of the struggle in this area. And that, of course, led up to Election Day. We went to a number of places. I'd say one thing on my observation. I have never seen an election with so many youth voting between the age of, say, 18 to 30, 18 to 28. It was like unprecedented. And the only difference, and people commented, they never saw any people come out like this. The one change was the Libre Party, a party that was advocating a socialist solution to many of the problems Honduras faces, was running for election. So you have to put, young people were coming out for change. They were not coming out to vote for two of the parties that have been around for like 150 years. And the results of the election we've heard about. There was a lot of intimidation leading up to the election, Libre Party activists being assassinated even the day before, coming back from government training to be a poll watcher. On their way back, they were ambushed and killed, intimidating people, causing a sense of intimidation that people didn't want to vote. So the vote happened, and the Nationalist Party, the party backed by the U.S. government, allegedly won the election. This is being contested. The Libre Party of Xiomara Castro Zelaya has raised issues of fraud, have documented the issues, and right now things, as I said, are in flux. They're asking for a recount, and a lot of the things trying to be decided now in Honduras is what kind of recount. How will the votes be recounted, original tally sheets, and things like that. This whole process, the vote, has been denounced in a press release, thank you, Comrade Tony Murphy, by the International Action Center delegation. It was also denounced by other delegations, including School of the Americas Watch, the National Lawyers Guild, and it's funny, with the European Union, they had a large delegation there, staying at 5-star hotels and traveling around in stretch vans and whatever. And they sort of said, well, there were things, but the election seemed to be okay. But it was denounced by one of their delegates, described the whole election as a fraud, and said that people in his delegation said this so they could be sent to other election day things all over the world. They get paid a lot of money and things like that. But it has been denounced internationally. We're following what's happening. Lastly, the role of the U.S. government. The U.S. government operates from two major installations, the embassy in Tegucigalpa and the military base at Soto Cano Air Base. And it's very obvious the influence the U.S. has on the National Party, and we'll have to see what happens. But it was an amazing delegation. It was truly a rainbow delegation of comrades and close friends, and we fulfilled our mission in bringing solidarity to the Honduran people at a very difficult time. So thank you, comrades.